Hi, welcome to another week of journeying along the Artist's Way path together. I'm Erica. Thank you for being here and checking in. I hope morning pages are going better for you than they are for me. I will be the first to tell you that I have been doing, well, I have not been doing them much. So little bits here and there, but what's that looking like for you? I know that one of the tasks, I believe, this week was to go back through, or was that last week? Whew, the time is just slipping away. I guess that was last week where we talked about going through the morning pages. So some of us decided that that's that's not going to happen, but some other folks thought that that might be interesting. It sounded a little overwhelming to some of us, so we talked about maybe just like deciding, okay, I'm going to pick two random days to open up to and just kind of like get a grasp of the shift that's happened between X and Y or whatever that may be. So I think the biggest thing that's coming up in our live study groups is just giving each other permission that we do not have to do this journey exactly as it is laid out. So giving you the support to take this path, whatever feels good to you, whatever way feels good to you, whatever you're able to do, know that it's enough. There's no right or wrong here. There's no one size fits all. Yes, there is a prescribed um, method that is encouraged, but as with anything, take what works for you, leave the rest. And even, whether you want to do more or you just don't have time to do more, like don't beat yourself up about it. Give yourself so much grace and compassion for just showing up and doing what you can. And that's enough. This will always be here for you to come back to. So this week is week 10, by the way. Like, can you believe that you're still here, that you're still doing this in whatever capacity you are? And we are at week 10, which is all about recovering a sense of self protection. And so, most of this week's reading really focused on pinpointing and kind of breaking down the things that keep us that from being creative, the things that are blocking us from following the path, right? So, looking at what things do we have that are being used as toxic patterns. So, it starts with talking about the dangers of the trail, how food, work, sex, like things that are inherently not good or bad, right? In fact, most of the time can be really, really beautiful and wonderful and great, but how when we abuse them and we become obsessive with them and use them as excuses for not doing something else, that becomes a toxic pattern and is a way that we prevent ourselves from flowing with ease, with creativity. And so taking a look at that and um, noticing, like, are there any things that you turn to that kind of help you tune out or avoid the things that you really want to do that maybe you're just scared to do, because this text really comes down to a lot of these things we use as a block for fear, which then prevents risk. Um, because we might be scared of what may happen. We might be scared that we'll fail. We might be scared that we'll be successful. We might be scared of what it might cost to do the thing that we're dreaming about doing. And so when we fill that space with something else, we don't have to think about that. So taking a look at what what we're using to block us and really dissecting that a little bit as to, like, why are we doing that? Why don't we have faith that we'll be able to do this thing that we want to do? So a few of the blocks that were mentioned: workaholism. um it's an addiction, and a lot of times, especially in the world that we're living in a capitalist first world country, which many of us probably that are, if you're here with me, likely that you're in one of those spaces. um Work has always been, seen as a positive thing, working hard and keeping busy, and that, there's truth to that. And what the real hard truth is that's mentioned here is very often we are working to avoid ourselves, our spouses, our relationships, our feelings, um, the things that are begging for our attention. And we use work as a cop out because it's inherently almost seen as good in our society. And so it's like, well, if I'm working, then it's okay that I'm not doing these other things, which is bullshit, my friends. So it's not one of those things where if you had more time, you'd have more fun. No, you have time, you can have more fun. Um, just do it. Just do it. It's going to be okay. So there's a workaholism quiz um, about that. And whew, this line got me. We are always dreaming of the ball and always experiencing the ball and chain. I have that underlined along with anxiety as fuel, right? That it it still gives us this sense of this energy rush. It's just not in a positive way. So how can you make sure that when you're working, that you're doing it with intention, that you're doing it mindfully, that you're not using it as a coping mechanism to block something else out? I think that's really important. There's also talk in here about boundaries being another way of thinking about what your bottom line is. So your boundary is your bottom line. Like, bottom line, I will not XYZ. That's a boundary. I say this all the time, but boundaries kind of are about building walls, but really the most important part about coming up with a boundary is showing people where the door is in that wall, and only showing the people that you invite in, that you are ready to welcome into your energy, your space, your sphere. So that can be people, that can also be inanimate objects like work or, you know, different projects, things like that. Um, that's workaholism. Drought is another thing. Like, yeah, sometimes we just aren't we haven't refilled our cup. And I think that's why the artist states are so important. And I think I forgot probably to mention the artist states at the beginning. Um, I know, and it's still happening, even though we talk about this every week. Like, the artist state isn't meant for you to make some amazing creation. The artist state is really designed for you to find a way to fill your own cup. It's really just supposed to be, she talks about, like, and I hate this analogy, but restocking the pond full of fish, um, because you got to have something to draw from, right? So it's like you've got this vault of creative ideas, creative influence, creative inspiration, and you're just kind of like adding to it. So it doesn't have to be about expending and making something. It can be like watching a really awesome documentary. It can be just going for a walk and seeing how many different kinds of interesting plants you have found. It could be listening to new music, any of these things, all good things. So, especially when you're feeling a drought and you're feeling like you're a little bit dried up inside, make sure that you are giving yourself moments of artist states to refill your cup. And also do your morning pages, because when there's a drought, it means like nothing's flowing, right? Everything's dried up. And so we have to find ways for our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions to flow. And so, even sometimes when it's hard to do, uh, keep trying, right? Keep practicing. So there's that. Fame, such a big deal in this 2021 experience that we are in right now. And it is a byproduct of success, supposedly, right now. I think a lot of us, I know definitely myself, we tend to judge or measure ourselves based on these metrics of followers, likes, engagement, clicks, purchases, and we measure ourselves and our worth and our success that way, and that is just not how it works. So inviting you to drop that and don't worry about, um, you know, how it looks from the outside, how popular you are, how many likes your Instagram post got, how many views your YouTube video got. Just do the thing. The thing that keeps coming back to me is making the thing, just to enjoy making the thing, not to think about the final outcome of that, not to worry about if you're going to be capitalist successful with it. So one thing that is mentioned here is write yourself a fan letter, send yourself a postcard. Ooh, personal mail, y'all, is so good, even if it's from yourself. In fact, maybe even try doing that for somebody else that you love and admire, just dropping them a postcard. It's just so wonderful. I have an offering where I send folks monthly postcards, and they're just so well received because it's so nice to get something that is not a bill or junk in the mail. So treat yourself there. And just remember that the solution to a lot of these things that are blocking us are just to take very small, loving, intentional actions consistently. Um, Nothing, not especially not everything, but most things, they don't need these big, grandiose actions or gestures. You just have to keep, like, I mean, chiseling away, literally chiseling away, like bit by bit. So play, 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 chisel away, keep going. Another thing mentioned in here is competition, and I think a lot of times we see that. Again, I think this book gets a little repetitive. I feel like we've definitely talked about this before, but trying to see your competition as collaborators rather than competitors. That's a beautiful term that I have a reframe that Michelle from Holisticism has shown me. Um, Julia in the book also talks about, like, instead of saying like, oh, they got this thing done, they did it before me, blah blah blah, like, just shows you that it can be done. It proves that it can be done. Like, look at it like, oh my gosh, that person did it. So obviously, yes, I can do it too. Um, like, bring it back to you. Let it be an empowering moment for you where it doesn't have to be about, what somebody else did. It can be about, wow, that's so expansive to see that this is how this person did it. So now I know that's possible. And this is how I'm going to do it. Right. Like, take it, rework it, make it your own. Competition doesn't have to be scary. Competition can be a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful thing. I think that's it for this week. I hope that was helpful to you in some ways, just to go over the material a little bit more. Let me know, like, what synchronicities are coming up for you. What are you noticing? Um, there's definitely some interesting tasks this week that I still have not done yet. So I'm not going to get into that, but I I definitely am seeing the synchronicities in my life going through this work with you, and how it connects with other things that I'm doing, and how it connects in other conversations that I'm having, or just vibes that are going on. And like I said, I'm not doing this perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. I'm definitely not, you know, devoting a ton of time or energy to it, but I'm still getting so much. I've been feeling so inspired and so creative, and I've come up with so many amazing, fun offerings and just new work that I'm I'm focusing on enjoying the process of creating rather than worrying about the outcome. And that feels really, really nice. So there's links below if you want to see what's going on right now with that. But I'm wishing you a most wonderful week ahead. And we've only got 2 more weeks of this textbook course left. 2 more weeks. And then we'll have a recap week because, I'm extra and can't just leave you high and dry. But we're doing it. I'm proud of you. You're amazing. You're a freaking badass, and sending you so much love, support, encouragement, motivation. Keep doing you. You are amazing.